And to be honest, chaos pretty much seems to follow Tottenham Hotspur around right now. Yesterday, it was as much happening around and off the pitch as it was on it for a change. It was just mad, honestly. Press box views, they differ. Sometimes you get fantastic ones. Sometimes you get ones that are shoved up in the gods. Look, hey, it's a free seat. Not complaining, just telling you there's very different angles and views we get. Yesterday's one at the Tottenham Hotspur was absolutely perfect for everything that kind of spilled onto the touchline, the dugout, everything that happened. We could pretty much see everything going on. And it was weird, we'd spoken about this before. The narrative for this game was meant to be, Roberto De Zerbi coming to Tottenham in front of 62,000 people, showing the fans, the Tottenham fans mainly, exactly what good football should look like at the stadium. Still happened to a degree, and as I'll touch on a bit later, they were really denied by some very iffy refereeing, some awful VAR work from Stockley Park, which obviously is now brought at the PGMOL, got to get that right, admitting that they made a mistake with Højbjerg's kind of tackle catching the foot of Mitoma. So that aside, they probably would have come away with a win. But instead, I kind of felt like De Zerbi wrote a different bit of a script for himself than the one we all expected. I don't really think it was a particularly good one. If Spurs had had any doubts about De Zerbi and maybe the fiery side of his character, other little aspects of the way he conducts himself, I guess. This was not the greatest audition on the touchline, although, like I say, football was very good. So, if you're not aware exactly what happened, we kind of noticed it when we got in our seats. There was a pre-match handshake, as the managers always do. So we watched Christian Stelini go over, attempt to shake De Zerbi's hand, and it was very, very awkward. It was not quite, but it looked like it was going to potentially become the whole Conte-Tuchel handshake, where De Zerbi held Stellini's hand and he just started jabbing at him like that. Not touching him, but poking his finger in his direction, just going like, rah, 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 rah. It was a proper rant ensuing. And Stellini's face was just like, what have I done kind of thing. It was really weird. So, after digging around and asking around and speaking to people around it, it appears to be, I think it was all in Italian, but obviously people have got the gist afterwards as people gave their side of the story. The suggestion appears to be that De Zerbi had been angered, upset, whatever you want to call it, by reading Italian versions of reports from Stellini's pre-match press conference at Hotspur Way on Thursday, which we were at. I'm trying to remember if there were any Italian journalists present. I don't think there were. David, who is normally, I think he works for the Gazzetta dello Sport, he is normally there, and he's an excellent journalist, but he wasn't there, I don't think, on Thursday. I'm pretty sure that he was back in Italy and returned for the match. Very nice guy. But that's a whole other thing. But what happened is the Gazzetta dello Sport must have taken... Certainly one version I saw on their website was a video of the press conference, but it had the headline above it, which when you translate it, said, Stellini, De Zerbi exploited all of Potter's work at Brighton. Which, pretty much, I guess, if you're De Zerbi and you're seeing that headline, you're thinking, what? Why is he having a pop at me? But the problem with that headline is it didn't really reflect in any way, shape or form a press conference where Stellini probably... I don't think it could have been any more complimentary about De Zerbi. We all walked away from it. And this is absolutely honest. This is not revising it with hindsight or anything. Honest truth. As soon as the press conference finished, various journalists and us, we all said to each other, wow, you pretty much that was a better interview for De Zerbi than De Zerbi could have done himself if he wanted the job. Because he really, Stellini, raved about it, glowing reports about the way he coaches and everything. And weirdly, the whole Potter thing's a strange one because he was only mentioned kind of at 2 moments in the press conference that states that Stellini was being negative or derogatory to De Zerbi in any way. Fair play to you, because I can, unless it's hidden between the lines, I absolutely cannot see it. If anything, what I took from that is he's saying, yeah, Potters did a good job, but De Zerbi has built upon those foundations and made them better. I mean, the stats are there for everyone to see what he's improved in all of the categories from Potter. And to be honest, that's something that De Zerbi himself has said in the past. He said that, he was very fortunate that there was a nice foundation there, and then he was able to bring his different style of tactics and his different football and improve on it. And that's a great thing. It's very helpful when you're not having to absolutely overhaul a mess of a club. Ring any bells? I don't get that. I don't get that whatsoever. And what I find really odd that Premier League managers, players, whatever, they're always very quick to say that, my quotes were taken out of context. I didn't really mean that. They've taken that. They haven't used the rest of it. Yet, in this instance, it appears, if this is all entirely accurate, as for the reason, that De Zerbi has seen headlines or seen something the way it was written in Italy, but not actually watched the press conference or even looked at the transcript. I know one journalist that writes in every word of the press conference. So it was there. The material was there to have a proper sense of what actually happened before launching in really clumsily into essentially accusing that other coach of saying something that he really didn't. It was really odd. And what it did was that handshake and everything around it just sparked this whole confrontational atmosphere throughout the whole game. And actually, we were saying in the press box, it actually lent itself to creating an edge in the match. You could see that kind of in the match it was spilling over into quite kind of not nasty tackles, but tough tackles. Like I say, it had that edge to it, which is probably a good thing. It's maybe not exactly what we expected from this game at all. And I'd actually say it probably helped fire up Spurs a bit more than it did Brighton. Although, I still think Brighton probably deserved at least a point, if not more, from the game. And De Zerbi, he just could not let it go. You could just see, like I say, we had a great view of both dugouts, and I could see De Zerbi. I could have done a De Zerbi watch, even more so than the game. He was constantly so far out of his technical area, he was almost on the edge of the Spurs one. And you could just see him just talking away, kept turning towards the Spurs dugout and saying stuff. Don't know what he was saying, but I'm sure it wasn't complimentary stuff. Just honestly, everything was aimed at them. And then when Lewis Dunk scored the equaliser, De Zerbi seemed to celebrate in the dugout's direction. And Ryan Mason, how do I put this politely? He told, it appeared to be telling De Zerbi where he could go. And there was more to come. When Danny Welbeck's goal was ruled out for VAR because of handball deflection off of McAllister, which was a bit tough in itself, it just increased. That crackling kind of tension between the two benches kind of ratcheted up even more. But just suddenly they went all together. But not everyone. That was the weird thing. Stellini and Mason were stood absolutely on the other side of the technical area, dealing with players and saying stuff and shouting stuff to their players. And they kind of essentially turned around and were like, what the hell has happened behind us? I was trying to think the Spurs coaches I could certainly see. Stefano Bruno, the fitness coach, he's quite a diminutive guy, but he was bouncing around, kind of really like, ooh, and like jumping around, wagging his finger at everyone. Who else was there? Marco Savarani, the goalkeeping coach. He was right in amongst the thick of it. Fitness coach Costantino Corratti as well. He was in there. But like I say, Stellini and Mason were right over the other side. And it was only eventually Mason started to come over to try and do a bit of peacemaking. And there were a few players trying. I guess this is the thing when it doesn't look great, when the players are having to play the mediators. So you had Richarlison and Davinson Sanchez, who were unused subs, came across from the bench to try and stop it. Perisic came off the pitch to try and stop it as well. It wasn't a good look. And then what happened was Stuart Atwell just kind of watched it all, looked at it all, and then brandished a red card for first De Zerbi and then Stellini. Stellini's face was absolutely just... There's some great images of him looking absolutely shocked. There's images of him just staring at the camera. I don't know how they managed to get that, but he's just looking at the cameras. So the official at the time, obviously, we're all like, why in the world has he sent off Christian Stellini, a man who was 20 foot away from everything? So what it turns out is the rule is that the red card officially was given to both managers for failing to control their staff. If you look at it like that, I mean, I'm not entirely sure what Stellini could have done, bearing in mind he was 20 foot away, turned the other direction, trying to talk to his players, as a manager really should be focused on doing. I don't know, is he meant to lie across the kind of technical area to stop them coming out of the bench, like you shall not pass kind of thing? Very, very weird. But I looked it up, and Law 12 in the FA rulebook states that where an offence among team officials is committed and the offender cannot be identified, the senior team coach present in the technical area will receive the sanction. So I looked at the list of possible offences for red cards. Yeah, there's a lot within that list that I definitely could see happening there in front of us between the technical areas. There's ones like aggressive behaviour, there's going into the other team's technical area, there's loads of various ones that, yeah, boxes ticked, but I just find it a bit ridiculous that Stellini's got caught up in that. I get the idea of, yeah, you're in charge of them, but